Starseed Ascension welcomes guests from a variety of backgrounds to gain perspectives, experiences, and information in the paranormal, spiritual, and ET space. We are a community of spiritual explorers who seek to help raise consciousness. And now, here's your host of Starseed Ascension, Jamie Voss Love.
Welcome back to Starseed Ascension. I am your host, Jamie Voss Love, and I'm super stoked for tonight's guest. First, a quick reminder that we do have the upcoming 11/11 Gateway of Peace, Love, and Contact, and that's sponsored by Isha Patel and partnered with Gaia TV, and you can find a free registration link on my Instagram at Jamie Voss Love. All right, so tonight's guest is a psychologist, professional astrologer, Galactic Origins specialist, certified Akashic Records Reader, quantum alchemist, intuitive energy healer, teacher, writer, galactic artist, and CEO of the Starseed Sanctuary. She has over 20 years experience helping souls heal and awaken, bridging the earth and the stars. And she's an expert in a number of areas, and you guys can read about that in the description of this video. But we will definitely dive into some of those areas tonight, which will be amazing. So please welcome Heather Hobson.
Hi, Jamie.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. How are you doing?
Good. So Heather was a part of the Codes of Ascension, and she did this beautiful rainbow flame activation that was so amazing. And so just great to connect with you again, and wanted to connect you to our listeners and viewers. Hear more about you, your story, your experiences, the work you do, all of the fun things.
Where to even begin? Yeah, you gave a great intro. I do many things. I wear many hats. And I actually just 6 months ago retired completely from the field of mental health. So I'm a retired psychologist, no longer practicing. I closed my private practice so I could just 100% devote my time to my spiritual business as a professional astrologer, Starseed Origins specialist, and Akashic Records Reader. It's what I love to do. So I'm glad to just be doing that now full time.
Yeah. So you were then doing both of those fields at the same time, it sounds like. And how long were you doing both of them?
Both of them I was doing for about 7 years. Which seems like a long time. For a part of that, I think it was easy to blend. It was easy to kind of have a foot in one world and a foot in the other. But post 2020, it just became a lot harder to do that. There were so many signs of like, you're just not supposed to be working in mental health anymore. So I finally pulled the plug about 6 months ago.
Yeah, it's a lot. It sounds like. So tell us about then your journey. Like, how did you even get into the work that you're about to partake in full time?
Yeah, so I've kind of always been a mystical, magical person, an intuitive healer, a clairsentient. I've had a lot of different paranormal experiences over the years. I've always been drawn to helping people and being of service. So that's kind of how I got into the field of mental health. But about 2012, I started having like a lot of physical health problems. I was like going to school full time. I was working on my doctorate at the time. I was going to working full time as well and doing an internship, and it just became too much. My body started shutting down. I had all these horrible gut problems, migraines that were happening, and it really kind of opened me up to the world of more holistic healing. you know, traditional Western medicine can be great for like emergency things. You break an arm, you have a gunshot. But some of the chronic issues, it's not so great for. And it was just making me more sick, you know, going to traditional Western medicine. So yeah, I started exploring things like breath work, naturopath, herbalism, shamanic journeying. I got really deep into the spiritual realms of energy healing, Reiki, all kinds of different stuff. And then I really deepened my practice in astrology during that time too, and started really studying it so I could begin giving astrology readings at that time. And that really changed my life, especially the medical astrology component of it, because you can learn so much about how to heal yourself from your birth chart.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that really kind of changed my life. And then about, what was it, 2017 is when I had kind of like a bigger activation, or spiritual awakening, if you want to call it that. I think we're kind of always on a journey of awakening from birth in a certain way, you know. But yeah, I had a really big awakening at that time during a breathwork session. That kind of just like blasted me open into the cosmos, activated a lot of my extrasensory or psychic gifts and abilities. So I started working with the Akashic Records at that time too. Yeah, and that's kind of how I learned more about starseeds and galactic origins, because I had so many experiences with like spirit guides or star guides that were very obviously not human in form, not of this right terrestrial plane. So yeah.
And it sounds like you work with all sorts of galactic guides and interdimensionals. Was there
Yes.
one in particular, or like a handful in particular that came in the beginning, when you first started
Yeah.
working?
Yeah, my Lyran guides. I have a lot of feline guides, I will say, like Lyran felines and Lyran avians. And there's a lot of felines from other star systems too that were coming through that initially at the time I thought they were all just Lyran. But now I know some of them were from Spica, right? And some of them were from Andromeda, and some of them were from other far out galaxies and dimensions too. So that was kind of like initially how I got kind of connected with star guides. But I'm very strongly connected to my Pleiadian guides as well, and the Arcturians.
Very cool. And do
Yeah.
you remember the first initial feeling of the energy and vibration? Did it feel like something familiar to you
Mhm.
and feel peaceful?
It did. It felt really peaceful. And it's interesting too, because a lot of like the pets that I've had, I'm a cat person, I'm a cat mom. A lot of the pets that I've had, I've been shown are also connected to Lyra, to Andromeda, and the Pleiades as well. So it's like really, I don't know, like something so familiar about it. And then you also have this connection to like a literal physical pet that had a past or parallel life with you on that star system. It's, I don't know, really special.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure we have a whole bunch of people that'd be interested in connecting, their pets with that past life or parallel life. Is that
Yeah.
something that you do? Do you read into that?
That is something that I do. I've actually been doing Akashic Records readings a little more lately with one of my cats. Her name's Earl Grey. She's like a beautiful all gray cat. And she there was like a litter of kittens in my backyard. There was like 6 little kittens in the hedge in my backyard, and she was the one that wanted to come with me. But she's very feral, so she's not like super comfortable around humans. So I was like, I should start tapping into her records to kind of try to understand like what's her soul mission here and how can I better help her feel safe around humans. And so that's been a really beautiful thing. You can absolutely read your own pets Akashic records or any like wild animal too, if you get the consent from their higher self to do that. So it's kind of a
Yeah,
fun thing. Yeah.
I love that. Did you grow up with pets?
I did. We always had pets. We had dogs, cats, we even had turtles at one point. I love animals. I always really feel like a kinship with them, connect with them telepathically, love them.
Beautiful. And do you
Yeah.
remember having any like gifts or abilities or experiences, mystical or paranormal or otherwise, as a child?
I do. It's interesting because I feel like a lot of star seeds and mystical people have like an imaginary friend. Mine was Mr. Sparkles. My imaginary friend, Mr. Sparkles. It was like this sparkly light orb thing that would come and pop up, and it always seemed to appear when I was like walking home from school as a little kid. I remember. And I just like named it Mr. Sparkles. And, you know, I didn't really think it was weird. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, yeah, that's like my, you know, light orb sparkle homie, right? But I know now, looking back on it, that was like a diamond light beam from Rho Cancri. It's the diamond planet in the Cancer star system, which I'm also really connected to. So that's one example. And I think a lot of like indigo children, crystal children, rainbow children, like the younger souls on earth right now, children that have been birthed like in the last decade or two, are really tapped into their psychic gifts and abilities and have similar experiences, you know, with, I wouldn't even call them imaginary friends, but like spirit guides or, you know, plasma light forms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm totally into it. Seeing what the kids will share, you know, now that like there's a listening ear there, more so than probably back in the day. Even the past life memories.
Right. Yeah.
Is that something that sort of spontaneously happened as well? Because I know you can intentionally investigate your Akashic records, of course, but did you have any lifetimes revealed through dreams or?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of like my lifetimes were revealed like through school, through learning. I remember like in 6th grade, we learned about ancient Egypt, and I was like obsessed with ancient Egypt. And I was like, oh, I just knew like I had a past life there. I was definitely there. This isn't new. This isn't new information, right? You just kind of know as a kid. And different things too that I've learned about along the way, like lost lands, like Atlantis and Lemuria, Hyperborea. You start learning a little bit about astrology and like fixed stars and the star systems and nebulas and different planets and things like that, and you're like, that feels oddly familiar, right? And definitely, I think in dreams a lot can come through, or even too just like in altered states of consciousness, mystical experiences you have, like shamanic journeying, breath work, plant medicine, things like that.
I love it. And in your opinion, like, what do you feel is a benefit of exploring our past lives and the information around it? You know, we put a lot into being present, but there's value in learning more about yourself. So what do you feel are some of those benefits?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think, just like as a side note, it's important that we don't over attach to our past or parallel lives, that we don't necessarily allow those to overly define us now in our current timeline or our current vessels. But if you think about it, like in the multidimensional sense, time isn't linear, time is quantum, time is circular. That version of us is still doing their thing in ancient Egypt or on the Pleiades, right? Or in Lemuria. And so when you're tapping in and learning a little bit about like your soul's cosmic lineage, the different places that you've journeyed on Earth and beyond, you're connecting with other aspects of yourself, with parallel versions of yourself. You know, there's like that saying that like your star guides, your spirit guides are actually just future versions of you. And they kind of are, in a way. I think of it like that. So it can help you create more of a unified sense of wholeness, to understand or make contact with some of those different aspects of yourself.
Sure. And how do you define parallel lives?
Well, I think that in the multiverse theory, right, there's like an infinite amount of different Earth realms, different actual timelines that are Earth based, as well as galactic, you know, or multidimensional, if we want to think about it like that. Every decision we make actually creates another parallel universe where there was another version of us, you know, maybe that didn't go to grad school. They went and became, I always think of that. Like I wanted to be like a comedic rapper, like Weird Al and Tupac have a baby, right? I'm like, there's a version of me in another parallel realm that's doing that, that's living large as this comedic rapper. So I think it's just interesting to think about. And sometimes it actually can help us be a little more mindful of the decisions we make too.
Sure.
Like what realm do I want to create with this decision?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Feeling into the vibration and of that parallel existence. Do you ever like pull some of that energy to this lifetime and channel like a little comedic rap?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I teach about this a little bit in my quantum alchemy course because we talk a little bit about like timeline alchemy, how you can close or heal, send healing energy through timelines where things are not going well for that version of you. If you think of it as a past or a parallel timeline, or also too, where you think about like a skill that you want to really hone in on. Like I use the example of like playing the piano. I want to learn to play the piano. I don't play the piano in this timeline, but there's another timeline where I am a really awesome piano player. So I want to like kind of connect with that timeline to be able to acquire that skill set now. So there's many different ways you can work with timelines, parallel lives, parallel selves to support you and help you here and now.
Yeah. I love that. It helps you, it sounds like, to like just overcome doubt or fear because you know that there's a confident, great pianist out there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what manifestation is, right? Like when people are like, I want to manifest the dream home. Well, there's a version of you that already has that in a different timeline. It's just you have to align and merge with that timeline.
Yeah. I love that. It's some creator power there.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned, well, first I want to ask you about this because you touched on this very lightly, and I'm so curious. You mentioned birth charts to heal. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Like what kind of information can be helpful to review?
Absolutely. Your birth chart is so special. I sometimes don't even really think people fully understand how special it is. It is an exact snapshot of the exact placements of all the stars, planets, asteroids, black holes at that exact moment that you were born. The stars, the planets, they're not going to align in that way, in that exact way for another 25,000 years. Damn. So like you are special, right? And when you look at that, all the different placements, there's a lot that you can learn about different patterns, right? That you're here to tap into, your gifts, different things that are challenging for you. The main things I think that are helpful to look at are Chiron, which is considered like a minor planet or an asteroid in astrology. It represents your core wound, represents the things that you feel kind of like shameful or insecure about, but it also represents your self-healing superpowers. Like once you can move past like I feel insecure about this thing, it's actually such a beautiful gift that you can help other people heal.
Yeah.
So that's a big one that I look at, among many other things too that are going on, depending on, what the person wants to tap into. And of course, fixed stars, I work a lot with fixed star astrology. That's kind of the most ancient form of astrology. It's not just about what sign, something like your Chiron is in or what house it's in, what fixed stars are an aspect to it. That's going to tell you a lot. Like, for example, in my natal chart, my Chiron is conjunct my Mercury, my midheaven, and the Pleiades. So while there's some maybe core wounds around different lifetimes connected to the Pleiades, there are guides that really help me heal and help me to connect with when I'm facilitating healings for other people too.
I love that. So you have the tools in the toolkit to move past the wounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. Everything is there in your chart that you need to really, learn about to tap into those gifts.
Now, is that different than I saw that you had recently posted about Varuna? Astrology. Am I
Oh
saying that right?
yeah. I'm in the middle. I think I've only done 4 of them, but I'm doing like a series about the 10 new evolutionary planets or minor dwarf planets. They're technically classified as asteroids in astrology. But it's so fascinating. There are these 10 Plutinos that have been discovered since the 21st century that are beyond Pluto. So they're like it's expanding the boundaries of our solar system. And I love too that they're starting to name them after different deities that are not just like Greek or Roman in origin. They're incorporating different cultures into that.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that's changing how we're working with those too in astrology for expanding our consciousness.
Yeah, so tell me about then. You mentioned asteroids, and I know like that's one of your areas of expertise. So with the asteroids and the way that they impact astrology, is it always the same energies or does it different?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's over 40,000 asteroids named that we know of. There's a lot of asteroids, and asteroids can sometimes be a little more subtle energy in your chart, but they really add another layer of depth to things because most of the planets are masculine in nature besides Venus and the moon. All the other like main planets that we work with, they're masculine in nature, but a lot of the asteroids add in this like goddess, divine feminine energy. So it can kind of balance things out in your chart. And there's so many different things that you can learn from working with not just like the main big four asteroids like Juno, Ceres, Vesta, and Pallas, but like your name asteroid. There's a Heather asteroid. I guarantee you there's a Jamie asteroid. Okay.
I'll be looking at that.
Yeah, you might want to look that up. Yeah. There's all kinds of past and parallel life asteroids that are Egyptian in nature or that are like Lemurian or Atlantean in nature. Like the King Arthur asteroids, the Avalon asteroids. It's really fascinating how much you can learn. I cannot tell you how many times I've been doing a reading with someone and they're like, I have a past life connection to Greece, or I've really been thinking about connecting more with my Irish side of my lineage. And I'm like, let's look up Ireland, where Ireland asteroid, and it's like conjunct their sun or their south node or something.
Wow.
Yeah, that happens a lot. So people usually have an affinity for some type of energy that's related to the asteroids that'll show up in their natal chart.
Wow, that's very cool. And don't we have one that's coming, like a big one that's coming in the next few years or so?
Yeah, we've had a couple. The like what was it? It's like 2023 to Shushawan that was making a close approach. I went out a week ago and tried to see it. They said you could see it with the naked eye. I know that one was coming close. And yeah, there's a couple other big ones that are supposed to be making close approaches to Earth. Hopefully not dangerously close. I know there's like it's like Asteroid Day, like World Asteroid Day or something, but it's not so much about like what I want it to be, which is celebrating asteroid astrology. It's like prepare in case a giant asteroid destroys Earth.
Like a doomsday prepper.
Yeah, it's a little more doomsday. Yeah. Which, hey, I mean, that's what they say caused the flood in Atlantis. A giant asteroid came, so hopefully that doesn't happen again, but we'll deal with it if it does, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we'll get in this conversation too, like talking about some solar cycle activity and ascension cycles, but we'll probably do that after the break just because we have a little bit left. So what about Orcus?
Orcus. Yeah, you liked him. You like him? Okay, so there's Pluto, right? There's Pluto, Hades, god of the underworld. There's also Pluto's lawless brother, Ixion, which I'm going to make a little post about. He's like a rebel. He doesn't follow the rules. And then there's Orcus, who's like the punisher of the underworld. He's like, doesn't like it when we break oaths. He does not like that. But he also, interestingly, protects people that do follow through. So he's kind of like almost like the personification of the underworld itself.
So you have to have some perseverance and commitment if you want Orcus by your side.
Absolutely. He's a really interesting one to look into in your natal chart because he can show you where you lie to yourself or where other people might lie to you, where you're sometimes prone to get manipulated, but also too what you need to do to follow through on the promises and the oaths that you make to yourself and others.
I love that. So he
Yeah.
helps kind of transcend it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, beautiful. Well, trying to think if I want to bring this up before we go into the break, but I'll just start the question and we'll answer it after. Wanted to ask you about, you were feeling having some health issues you mentioned around 2012. When you look back on that, any parallels with the solar activity? Did you look into that to see if that was something that maybe amplified it a bit?
Yes, absolutely. And I will say too, with the awakening, experience that I had in 2017, that was one of the last big solar cycles that we had. There's definitely a correlation.
All right. Well, let's go to the break and we'll continue this conversation after.
Sounds good.
While most near-death experiencers return to this plane of existence with alluring tales of their time spent in the presence of the divine, what happens when one crosses the veil into the afterlife, into the void? In the new book, Dying to Meet Them, Mindy Toutfest describes her journey to the afterlife after a devastating aneurysm, how a strange turn of events would lead her to spiritual growth, divine healing, UFO experiences, and a greater understanding of the universe. Get your copy of Dying to Meet Them today at Amazon.com or visit unxmedia.com for more information on this book and more amazing selections from UnX Media Publishing at unxmedia.com.
This is Margie K, and I'd like to say thank you to all of our KUNX show hosts, staff, listeners, and viewers for making us number one on Paranormal Talk Radio.
The UnX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Cathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full-spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UnX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Hello and welcome back to Starseed Ascension. I am Jamie Voss Love. We are here tonight with Heather Hobson. Welcome back, Heather.
Hey.
Yeah, and you are just a wealth of information. I was thinking about that
on the break.
I'm like, wow. So yeah, we started talking a little bit about noticing a parallel just between physical symptoms and the solar cycles, and of course now we are in 25, and it's really interesting because we've had just so much activity and it's been pretty intense, of course, over the last year, and science says that we're just now coming into peak, which means that we can expect a whole lot more of that.
Oh yeah.
So what are you feeling like, just based on your observations, what you know to be true for yourself, and then what you've observed that others are feeling? What part of the cycle do you feel like we're in? any kind of common themes that you see, or any recommendations of how to move through it?
Yeah. I love that we're more aware of how these solar cycles, solar storms, solar flares, solar wind, the coronal mass ejections, how they actually impact us as humans. We're far more aware of it now. More people are talking about it, because I think like back, in 2012, when I was having those health issues and the solar cycle was really booming at that point, I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't really necessarily like fully on a spiritual path. And perhaps there's some correlation with how it was negatively impacting my health. Then you fast forward 5 years later, 2017. I knew a little bit more about it then. I wasn't as deep into space weather as I am now. But it activated me in a different way. So when you're more conscious, as all of us, I think, are becoming, you can actually utilize that energy. You can harness that energy to support you and help you, rather than create, chronic health problems. I think, we've all experienced those days where it's like, oh, there must be some kind of solar activity or space weather happening, because I feel really drained. I feel achy. I'm having a migraine. Something's happening. I don't feel like myself, right? It's kind of out of the norm. But if we know what the correlation is, I don't want to say cause, but what the correlation is to the solar energy, that influx of huge plasma light from the sun into our ionosphere and our atmosphere and the magnetosphere, then we know, okay, this is helping me. It's activating me. I mean, the sun, it's pure light, pure plasma energy, so it does activate and purify our light bodies. And I think that a lot of us don't feel great sometimes, because as humans, we have a lot of junk that we need to purge and detox, not just physically, but energetically too. So it can be helpful, right? If we know what's going on, how to work with it, and how to take care of ourselves on those really powerful solar storm days.
Definitely. It's like we're going through a massive detox of every cell, organ, our bones, all of it. It's interesting just in that I think you actually spoke a little bit about this. Somebody asked at the end of the activation that you did, and talked a little bit about the heliobiology, which is, the study of how it impacts us. So we know that there are physical connections. And so, the other part too with the ascension waves that I observe in my work, I'm sure you do in yours as well, are when you go through kind of the waves of not wanting to be here, which is like also something that starseeds in particular seem to feel. So is that something that you observe and with your clients and the people you work with? And is that something, what do you usually say to kind of help support them through those energies?
Yeah, because, existential crises, intermittent rapid cycling, dark nights of the soul, I think are a real thing. It's so challenging when you're a sensitive soul on Earth, whether you identify as a starseed, a light worker or not, right? If you're even half aware of what's going on in the world, it's really hard to keep a positive mindset or a high frequency. It's really sometimes challenging to hold that frequency, because we're not supposed to hold that frequency all the time. Right. There is value in sometimes going down into the underworld, right? Maybe saying hi to Orcus and Pluto for a minute. Having a little bit of a reality check with yourself, but trying to not live there or get stuck there, right? So I think having some type of energy work that you can do to pull yourself out of that, that's something I do a lot with my clients, helping them clear their energy, helping them make sense, like the gold mining of the shadows. There's gold under there in that dark night of the soul. There's some magical treasure in there, but you just have to find it.
I love it. It's like the fire gift of what is gained when you can access that.
Absolutely.
All right. So you also talked about, in one of your areas, psychic attacks. and negative entities. Do
Mm-hmm.
you perceive are those related in your opinion, negative entities and psychic attacks, or are they separate?
Yeah, they're intertwined. You know, there's a variety of different psychic attacks, and just to kind of like demystify that, I know that sounds like scary and kind of weird. It's just an energy. Some energies are more benevolent than others, and some are not, right? A psychic attack could come from another person, another human. It could come from, you know, a fallen entity, a negative energy. Sometimes they're just like psychic fleas or little kind of gargoyle guys hanging around in your energy field trying to siphon your energy. And sometimes they're bigger and more malevolent. Some of them were kind of more organic in nature, like ghosts. And some are more synthetic in nature, like the black goo or the black cube technology. So there's a wide range of different types of, like negative entities or psychic attacks. And I think that starseeds are particularly targeted because they don't want us to be awake and doing our gifts and, right, serving the world and helping other people awaken. That doesn't serve certain nefarious agendas.
And is there something that can be done to protect, or is it more so just clearing out the energy? Is it kind of staying strong in your light?
Yeah, I mean, you're nothing's wrong with you if this happens to you. Like, you're not necessarily doing something wrong. Of course, we do want to do a little check, like, you know, am I watching too much TV? Am I interacting, you know, with people that are not good for me, right? Am I giving my energy to people, places, or things that could be harming me or creating negative attachments? For example, like I used to love to kick it in graveyards. I used to really like to hang out in graveyards. I don't really like to hang out in graveyards so much anymore, even though like most ghosts and entities aren't just kicking it there. But places like that you could be more susceptible to picking up something, right? We want to be mindful of. But a lot of times someone is just like shining brightly in their light, and, you know, some type of entity is like, ooh, food source. That looks yummy. It's like a big chocolate cake they want to eat, you know? And so they like ride on the coattails and they feed off of it. So I think the main thing, is just being mindful and knowing how to clear your energy, knowing how to protect your energy, knowing that you are sovereign, you are a sovereign divine being, you deserve to be free and clear, and anyone can clear any type of negative energy off of them. It's not as hard, difficult, or mystical as some people make it sound.
No.
Yeah.
And when you are referencing psychic attacks, just to clarify for those like listening and watching so they know, are you perceiving those to be sort of thought forms that are intruding upon
they can be they can be thought forms, like you're feeling like I'm having weird thoughts that don't feel like mine. Intrusive thoughts could fall into that category, or all of a sudden you're having thoughts of harming yourself and that's not something that's come up for you before. It could also be just like you're feeling exhausted all the time and there's not any real medical origin to that. You know, you don't have some type of chronic health issue. You didn't just like do an Ironman competition or something, you know, like it seems out of the ordinary. Even just a feeling like I feel like I'm being watched, or I'm feeling like, you know, something's off in the house, you know, something's off with my energy. Could be as simple as that.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that for our listeners and viewers. That was one of the questions that came through. So,
yeah, of course.
Well, wanted to throw that out there. All right. So, what do you think? Are we in the fourth dimension yet? The fifth dimension? Are we moving? Are we oscillating between dimensions? What is your perception?
Yeah, I kind of see it almost like as a trifurcation, you know, where there's like some folks, some groups that are like solidly in the 3D. They're like, or maybe lower. They're solidly there, right? They're planted there. They're not going there. They're happy in the 3D. And then there's like another group that's like kind of hanging out like in between 3 and 4D. And then this other group that's kind of spending, I would say, more of the majority of their time in between 4 and 5D. Or maybe higher for some people.
And do you feel like everybody has access to it right now to the higher dimensions to stay there kind of in a full-time level, or does it feel like it's been kind of moving through different training periods, so to speak? What plugs us in, what kind of can drop us out, and observation of such?
Yeah, I think it's really about learning how to have like a fluidity with it, right? Because we're not fully at a place collectively in our civilization, at least my sense of it isn't, where we can fully be consciously, in the 5D just yet. We still need to navigate the 3D.
Yeah.
We still need to navigate the 4D, right? And maybe all of them in an hour, even in an hour, right? We can do that higher vibrational, magical, mystical work. We can do off-planet work in higher dimensions. And then we have to come back down and, cook dinner, for our family. All right.
Pay bills.
Pay bills, right? Yeah. So that's okay, right? We're multidimensional beings. So I think it's natural to navigate between different dimensions, different states of consciousness.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love that you shared that about the multidimensional beings, because that's oftentimes there can be shame connected to being in sort of the third dimension, but you can kind of bop around in all of the worlds.
Exactly. Yeah. I know that comes up a lot too for people, in the spiritual community of like, ugh, Earth's like a ghetto. I don't want to live here anymore, or whatever. It's like the prison planet, and it can feel like that. And I'm not saying that there's not some morsels of truth to that. However, like we're here to bridge that higher dimensional frequency, those higher dimensional energies, and anchor it into the Earth. So we can't do that if we're not like embodied and present in the 3D sometimes.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what is the galactic role in supporting that process?
Ooh, that's a good question. So many things. I think that we get so much from connecting with our galactic families, with our galactic ancestors, with star guides, with spirit guides. There's so many wonderful, powerful things that we can channel, that we can receive, different downloads, activations, again, that help us serve the people in our communities that we're here to work with. In general, I think they're kind of, all eyes are on Earth. It's like everyone's like, what's going to happen with Earth? It's like the galaxy's favorite reality TV show. Like, is Earth okay? We need to check in with them. But they're hanging back and letting us figure it out for ourselves. I don't know. Hopefully they won't need to intervene. Hopefully it won't get so bad that they actually do intervene, but I'm here for it if they do need to. Yeah.
You're open to it.
Yeah. Hey, if they want to come beam on down and, make their ships be more visible and known. It's interesting. You see a lot of different sightings and things. So they're here. They're here to support us. They're here to connect with us. It's a relationship. And I think sometimes we forget to think of it like that. It's a relationship with our family. If you haven't called your grandma in 6 months, you might feel really disconnected from her. So it's like, connecting with them, calling on them, asking them to support you, keeping that relationship alive and well, and the lines of communication open.
For sure.
Yeah.
And do you feel, because if there isn't a reason to intervene and we continue through this process to elevate consciousness and kind of, get to where we're aiming to go, do you feel like there will be an arrival of sorts?
Yeah, I do. I think that absolutely is a possibility, in a bigger, more obvious way. My main concern with that is, and I don't know how deep we want to get into whole conspiracy land right now, but is the whole Project Bluebeam situation, that there will be a false flag attack, that there will be some type of, government orchestration that is scary to people. And a lot of people, and this is not a judgment at all, but a lot of people that maybe aren't into Starseed Galactic-y things, more mainstream folks, think aliens are scary. They think extraterrestrials are bad. They think that they would take over in a negative way. And okay, maybe there's a small subset of groups that will, but the vast majority, they wouldn't do that. They're here to support us.
Yeah. And that you actually answered my next question, which was going to be why you think, or there are people that still have fear around it, and that sort of just covered it. So do you feel then it will be, because we're seeing this now sort of an expansion of experiences in a way, there's an increase, right, of people that are having sightings or having like their own personal experiences through meditation or different groups. Do you feel like that is going to be a key in helping maybe some people to overcome their fear before?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I just facilitated a really, really heartwarming Akashic Records journey for a client last night, and just like brought her to tears to connect with her galactic guides that she'd never connected with before, that we were able to tap into through that journey. Just like, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea that I had guides like this. So I think more people are open to that, and more people are making connections and rediscovering, their galactic origins. You're not discovering it, you're rediscovering it. You're remembering it.
Right. That's beautiful. Yeah. And I didn't even ask you this, but like, I'm just thinking on my own journey, I had, fears around it. And that was not coming from a place of knowing that you could even connect, or I hadn't remembered yet, we'll say. And my basis was like Fire in the Sky. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but even though, he speaks in support of, in a different kind of perception of those experiences than when that movie first came out, but that like frightened the bejesus out of me. And so, I kind of worked with loved ones on the other side and angelics, and then the Galactics came in, and then it was like, whoa, the memory came up, the familiarity, and it was just like the most beautiful experience ever. And now, that's just a part. Did you, on your own journey, did you ever have fear that you can remember? Or did you not think about it like that? Or did you always know, like, there's something out there and I'm a part of it?
Yeah, I think a part of me always knew. However, it's like, as a kid, I was like obsessed with the X-Files and shows like Sliders that was about like time travel and portals and things like that. I was always obsessed with that kind of stuff. I used to love scary movies. I do not watch scary movies anymore, but the vast majority of those types of films and TV are scary. Right? Alien bad. It's abducting you. It's harming you. It's harvesting your organs. Like, like stuff like that. And so I don't know, in a weird way, I never really thought of it as scary, but I could see how like people would seem, to be conditioned to believe that it's scary or bad, or that it can harm you in some way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I needed to pop like E.T. the movie back, like to the forefront.
Yeah. Phone home. Yeah.
So going back now to Bluebeam that you're speaking, I don't care if we talk conspiracy.
Let's go there. Yeah.
Okay, let's go there. Why not? So is that going to be playing off of the portion of the folks out there that are still kind of connected to that fear, that haven't had, maybe a positive or benevolent experience?
Yeah, potentially. I think that's something that, we've been warned about, many of us in different ways, shapes and forms, that there will be this false flag alien attack, that it will be, projected with holographic technology to make it look like, right, the Earth is being invaded or taken over, that it will then cause the entire Earth to band together to fight against this perceived enemy that isn't real, or is being blown up to look like something bigger than it is, so that they can have galactic wars in space, so that then NASA can spend more trillions of dollars of our hard-earned tax money to go to war in space.
Yeah. And with the UFOs and the UAPs out there, do you think some of those are already military man-made craft?
Yeah, I think a lot of the sightings, ones that people catch on film are government. They're man-made. Not all of them, though. Not all of them. Yeah, but they have that technology. They've been reverse engineering that technology since Roswell, since that crash that happened, right? They know a lot more. They have a lot more of that advanced technology than they will ever admit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about your personal experiences with UFOs or UAPs? Have you seen them? And what would you say, like in terms of, is it real, like what I'm seeing, like an actual, like from, an intergalactic species?
Yeah.
Is that more so like of an intuitive feeling?
I've seen both. It's interesting because I love going to alien hotspots. I love going to ET UFO hotspots. I took a trip to the extraterrestrial highway near Area 51. It's like the best stargazing too, out there in the middle of the night. There's like no light pollution at all. And I definitely saw one there that I had a sense. I don't have 100% proof of, but I had a sense. I was like, that's military. The way it was moving, the way it was hovering, the lights on it, it didn't look to me, it didn't feel to me real. But when I have had sightings that felt very important, that felt very special, it's been more when I've been on Mount Shasta. There's a lot of UFO, UAP activity around there. And sometimes, they're kind of cloaked in the lenticular clouds that show up around Mount Shasta. And sometimes you see them and they're moving and they're different kind of light orbs around them. It's pretty fascinating. Light ships, plasma light forms and plasma light ships. They don't even sometimes really look like a craft, because they have that the cloaking technology. They can shapeshift. They can make their craft look however they want.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that is a great hotspot for UFO activity. Is that one of your favorite spots? Are there any other spots you'd like to mention? I know you have like a whole.
I do. I love that. I was born on the 37th parallel. I'll just throw that out there. I was born in Berkeley, California. The 37th parallel is a parallel that runs all the way from like San Francisco Bay Area down through certain parts of Arizona and New Mexico, Roswell, and it runs all the way across, right, the 37th parallel, the globe. There's a lot of other hotspots there. So I would say pretty much anywhere in Northern California, if you're out, at the right time, you can see one. But Mount Shasta is one of my faves. Love Mount Shasta. The extraterrestrial highway, Area 51, although you need to be a little careful there because there's so much military influence. Right. Sedona is another great one. And Area 101, it's on the Mendocino-Humboldt border in Northern California. That's another really good hotspot out there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, or you didn't mention this, but this was on the list. Just wanted to check in to see if there's anything to add there about deep space.
Deep space. So much to add. What, I don't know, like just anything specific that comes to mind?
Well, it's interesting because there are, well, I guess this really wouldn't be deep space, but I was thinking about like more so parallel worlds and worlds that we may have done the same process before that are actively going on. Wondering if you've tapped into any of those worlds.
Oh yeah. Well, if you think about it, like like the quantum field, right? The holographic realm, like the quantum field, like space is almost like a personification of the multiverse. We think about like you're traveling whatever, like hundreds of light years out, you know, what is it, like 400 light years to the Pleiades, but you're also traveling through time and space. You know, they say time is like another dimension. Some people even say time is the fourth dimension, but space time is its own entity as well. So it's just so interesting how we interact with time, our relationship to time, and how it overlaps and intersects with space travel or multidimensional travel. Yeah.
Yeah. Multidimensional travel is like a whole nother, you know, just in general with this traveling through space, it moves slower, right? Time moves slower than it would here.
It does. Like if we were to physically, literally travel in a spacecraft, it could take us a long time to travel to the Pleiades. However, if you multidimensional travel with your consciousness, you can be there like that.
I love it.
Yeah. Your brain is the spaceship. Your brain is the time machine.
All right. Yeah. Any comments on the origins of human?
Oh boy. We are celestial, galactic in nature. You know, if you think about the missing link, that jump, we were like cavemen in the caves with like, wooden tools. And then all of a sudden we're building ships and we're sailing and we're building giant megaliths and all these other things. That I know was because there was galactic DNA manipulation, if we want to call it that. Some of it positive, some of it not so positive. So yeah, we are aliens. We are extraterrestrials, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we have just about 30 seconds or so left. So just wanted to see if there's anything else you want to add about the work, how to find you.
Yes. Yeah. Check out my Instagram. My Instagram's a beautiful piece of artwork. My OCD is very colorful. So go check that out. The Starseed Sanctuary. You can check out my YouTube channel, the Starseed Sanctuary as well. And then, yeah, check out my website for all my different classes, offerings, readings. If you want to get a Galactic Origins reading with me, or check out my Quantum Alchemy class if you want to learn more about psychic self-defense.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you, Heather, so much for joining us tonight and sharing your wealth of information and knowledge. And for everybody listening, watching, thank you so much. May you find peace in the mysteries of the universe. Much love.
Thank you.